Welcome, Hare Krishna. I hope you can see me okay. It's kind of dark in my computer. Let me move a little bit. Is that better? The light is behind me and above me. Let's see what happens if I move sideways. Oh, there goes one iPod down the drain. How's that? Any better? And you don't have to look at a bed. You can look at a... I don't know if that's any better. It's kind of dark here, isn't it? What do you say, ladies and gentlemen? Alejandro, can you see me, or do I look like I'm in a dark closet? Do I have to turn my effulgence on? For everyone to see. Finurati, Carolina, Antonio, Kurunishta, Marina, Alejandra too. Okay. Looking good. Wow. Okay, thanks. I've been going, last few classes were a little spontaneous, and I'm in a spontaneous mood. I think partially in the spontaneous mood because the topic of cooperation, it's like there's a side of me that says this is a very important topic, and there's a side of me that says that there's so many aspects that have to be developed within a person to be cooperative, and if some aspects are missing, then it becomes very difficult. It can be very difficult. So there's a side of me that says, why talk about it? Because if people don't have it in them to be cooperative, then whatever you say won't help. But it's probably not a good attitude, but we haven't talked about that topic in a while. Or perhaps maybe I felt that I've covered it. And, there's everything we talk about now is a little redundant, but I don't know how you feel about it. You might have other topics you're more interested in, which we could talk about. I mean, I could talk about some of my feelings about it. I don't know. Someone might say, well, you don't want to talk about your feelings. You want to talk about the Shastric understanding. But I think my feelings and the Shastric understanding hopefully are the same. But I don't know if we talked about one thing. Looks like if you don't have any questions, I'll just talk. It'll be like sometimes in radio shows, you find that they talk until people, they have a topic and they talk about it until people start asking questions or commenting. But I'll get it going. But you're free to, if you want to ask questions about anything else, you're free to ask. But there's one thing. It's in the Bhagavatam, but we also see this in life everywhere. In the Bhagavatam, I think it was Devat, I forget the exact story. I just read it recently. I think it was brothers who were working well together. They were cooperating. And then Krishna said, I'm very pleased with your cooperation. And that Prabhu says, because Krishna's, of course we know if Krishna's pleased, he shows his mercy, but especially if he's pleased by cooperation, then he's very merciful. And or should we say cooperation pleases him, so then he's very merciful. And in that mercy, his Shakti comes down and then everything goes well. Anyway, we see that, practically speaking, where there's a high level of cooperation, there's a high level of enthusiasm. And it seems that it seems like the way the world works, the laws of nature work, that when people work well together, or try to work well together, there's a higher level, or a very high level of enthusiasm, encouragement, happiness. All these things are necessary to be successful. And the opposite is true when people have difficulty cooperating, they're very closed, argumentative. It's very draining, and so when we get drained, then we're not operating on full energy. I don't know if we talked about this before. Did we talk about this before? Like you have an 8-cylinder car, but you're not running on 8 cylinders. So when there's a supportive atmosphere, it's like an 8-cylinder car, and it runs like it has more cylinders. And when we're not cooperating well, we can become discouraged easily, and we can become negative. We can become sometimes hopeless, or very much preoccupied with what has happened in the past that wasn't good. And that could even bring us to an apathetic state where we don't really care because we don't think things can get better. So you see that when devotees don't work well, relationships aren't good, this can happen. And then complaining will be a result. And once you start complaining, especially if you start blaming, then you kind of feel somewhat victimized by people and situations, and that really zaps energy. It's a very, not only does it zap energy, it's a very negative way of thinking. Because when you're blaming, you don't see anything positive. And if we want to be successful in Krishna consciousness, we have to be positive, right? We have to be optimistic. I mean, that's the whole thing. Here we are, we're in the material world. We're trying to get out of the material world. It's not easy, as you know. And if something is difficult and you're not optimistic, at least somewhat enthusiastic about achieving success, if something's difficult, then what happens? It becomes extremely tough, right? Because something's difficult, you need energy to do, right? And if you don't have the energy to do something, if it's easy, you don't need so much energy. But if it's difficult, you need a lot of energy. So my realization is that material energy is always trying to discourage us from Krishna consciousness, and we can get easily discouraged when there are bad relationships. It's because they're very discouraging. Because ultimately, with devotees, you want affection. You want to get affection and encouragement from sangha, because sangha is one of the 5 main practices of bhakti, right? So if you go into sangha and it's not working, it's not encouraging, it's not blissful, it's not relishable, then it's not really sangha, because in this Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says these are the symptoms of sangha. It makes Krishna consciousness more relishable. So if you get sangha and you just become disturbed, it's like a real paradox, isn't it? Like the very thing that's supposed to give you life in Krishna consciousness becomes the thing that's the most disturbing to you, right? So it's such a powerful form of Maya. If you're applying a process which is very powerful, but applying it or not utilizing it properly, it can become the most destructive. Because offending devotee is destructive. Blasphemy of a devotee is destructive. Criticism is destructive in general, even if you or criticize an ordinary person. And it's more destructive criticizing a devotee because it's all negative. And so, we have this example. I think it's a lotus. It could be the lily. I'm not sure. The sun comes and it opens up. The sun goes down, it closes. And I think the lily closes in the sun and opens at night. So one sun closes it and another sun opens it. And the example is given by association of devotees. You open, but if you associate wrongly, then it closes you. So it's the same association with a different effect. So that's what we see practically, isn't it? That association is just incredibly powerful for our spiritual life, but it has the potential to ruin it. I mean, you could say that about the holy name also. It can give you love of God, but by committing offense, it only will give you something material. And as we discussed in our japa workshops, it's actually painful to chant with offense because we don't get the result. And when we don't get the result, here we are, we're chanting the holy name and not getting the result it was intended to give. It's like if you chant thinking about sense gratification, you often become attached to sense gratification, even though you're chanting, because the mind is focused on something it shouldn't be focused on when you're chanting. So you're not really getting the benefit. So if we come together as a group and we get along well, we cooperate well, it creates a synergy. Synergy, Venerati, synergy is when you put things together and they become more powerful than individually. Like you say turmeric is healthy, but if you put it with cayenne, it'll be more healthy. Or, you take a couple chemicals, you put them together, and it creates something greater than the sum of its parts. When you put 2 or 3 people, good people together, it creates a synergy, and they become more than 3 times, they can become more than 3 times powerful. That's what it means. That's what synergy is. You take 3 things that have a limited degree of power and you put them together and those 3 things become more than 3 times more powerful because they synergize. This is synergy. If you don't understand English well, some of you don't, this is synergy. You put things together and become more powerful. So when you put devotees together, then everyone's bhakti becomes more powerful. If you don't offend them, if you don't criticize them. But if you put devotees together and then you don't associate properly, if you become critical, then by coming together it becomes worse. Isn't that interesting? So how do we deal with devotees when we don't like what they do, when they do something that upsets us or bothers us? How do we deal with that without becoming upset? Well, when I was in Vancouver, maybe a little bit in Seattle, but I think more in Vancouver, I think also in Seattle a bit, we were talking about how there are situations in life which are disturbing, but we can't do anything about. It's because of the way, particularly we're talking about because of the way people are. So people do things which may be disturbing to us or to others. And sometimes you can do something about it, but in some cases it's just the way they are, you can't do anything. But what they're doing is upsetting or disturbing. So what do? Now you're upset. To think about them is upsetting, to deal with them is upsetting. What do? Well, one of the things we were discussing is that sometimes we take things too seriously, and therefore we allow things to upset us that shouldn't. upset us. And I was telling devotees, look at how much mental energy you have, and where do you want to focus that mental energy? Do you want to focus it on something that's really upsetting you, that kind of consumes you? Obviously the answer is no, but we do that, don't we? Don't we do that sometimes? That we get very upset about something and it gnaws on us. There's a saying that whatever you feed on feeds on you. So you feed yourself something that's disturbing you about another person, for example, and you feed yourself this, and you start chewing on it. Oh, this person did this. This is what they did is so bad. It's so upsetting, so disturbing, and you feed on it. So now you feed on that, and then it feeds on you. So what happens? You become quite discouraged. You become negative, whatever. Right? Isn't it? So that I was trying to reason with the devotees. I'm saying you have a limited number of years, and you have a limited amount of mental energy. Do you want to expend your time and mental energy thinking about something that's really disturbing you, and you can't even change it? There's nothing you can do about it. Of course the answer is no, but we do it, don't we? And so I'm trying to point this out, that sometimes there are situations which are very disturbing, that they go against so much of what you believe to be the right way to behave, the right way to act. You know those situations, somebody does something, it's so wrong, and they get away with it, and it just defies everything that you believe to be proper, everything you believe to be an act of honesty and integrity, of kindness, whatever values you have, and they act the opposite way, and you can't do anything about it, and it's hurting other people. What do you do? When you understand that, then you realize, if I focus on this, it's just going to drain me. And it will drain you physically, not only spiritually or mentally or emotionally, it will also drain you physically. So you're like, it's like you're really, we harm ourselves. And so this became a theme, a lot of the theme when I was just in Seattle and Vancouver, a theme that if you can't change the situation, if it is how it is, then sometimes you have to make light of it, don't take it so seriously. And sometimes you have to accept that this is how this person is. This is just how he is, or how she is. And you have to expect it. Then you, pray for them, that's good. But, that's very positive, pray for them. And a lot of times, acceptance is extremely important. Because if you don't accept, you try to change. And you want to change them, or you'll try to change them in your mind. You wish they would change. So then Devavati said, pray. And somebody's thinking, I'll pray that they change. That's not exactly what you want to pray for, because you're still trying to change them. And that goes against acceptance. They pray that Krishna guides them. That maybe they're being guided the way that they feel is best for them. But what I'm trying to point out, this is just the nature of reality, that different people will clash, and because they don't appreciate one another's way of thinking, values, and so on. And what we want to do is be able to come to a point where we may not like it, but we can appreciate them. Just that this is how they are. They're very this way, or they're very that way. And a lot of times what it is, it's just the nature of the individual's personality. It's just, this is who they are. This is how they operate. They may change. Some of it, of course, is conditioning, and some of it is just nature. It's just how they operate. They're not even aware of how they operate. It's who they are. And then if you study Ayurveda, if you know anything about Ayurveda, then you'll see, according to constitution, people are, they have different mentalities even by constitution. Some more mellow, some more focused, some less focused, some more fiery. So a lot of this is just ingrained in their nature. Some more friendly, some more reclusive. And if we want to work well together, then acceptance is important. Well, this is how that person is, this is how he thinks. And so we have to deal with that. And of course, within our own areas, we act according to ways that we think are best. But when working with other people, we can't always have that freedom. And so we have to be more accepting. And then when we're more accepting, there's less negativity. And if everybody's more accepting, there's less negativity. It's easier to find more common ground. And it's easier to compromise. And accept that when we compromise, it's because we're also compromising so that a higher principle, which is the principle of working well together, can be maintained. Because even though we compromise, but if that principle is maintained, often we can do more. Of course, some people will argue that. They'll say, well, don't compromise your principles. Just that cooperation is not a higher principle. You see what I'm saying? They say, Siddhanta, truth is the highest principle. Cooperation is not higher than truth. And I also agree, but I see that in some situations cooperation is the highest truth, because sometimes you have the highest truth, but people can't, number one, agree on it, or they can't cooperate enough to execute it. So then cooperation is higher than truth, because even if you have the truth, you can't do anything. So we have some comments from the great devotees listening. Yeah, Devavati agrees. He's saying, yeah, we can pray for acceptance. Krishna, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. My godbrother told me that originally, it wasn't to change the things I can. It actually means, I don't know originally what that, I think what he means is that the literal translation, which was the original translation, is grant me serenity to change the things, not that I can, but that I should. Because if you actually think about it, you don't want to change the things you can, you want to change the things you should. Just because you may be powerful and you could change a lot of things, so you don't want to change the things you can, change the things you should. But I mean, we understand what he's meaning. Accept what I can't change, change what I can't, but really, change what I should. And the wisdom to know the difference. Yeah. Pray for the wisdom to know the difference, what to do and what to leave undone. Yeah, it's actually, you can see that in order to work well in situations in which people are doing things you don't agree with, it requires more detachment than we normally are called to give. And that's why it's so hard, because it's really hard to detach from your own opinion, isn't it? It's really hard to detach when you know something will work, but you're restricted because other people don't agree, and you know what they're doing will not work, but you can't stop. I mean, it's very difficult, isn't it? And we've all been through it, and it requires a kind of detachment in which we say, okay, I've stated my opinion, I've done my best, and I have to now leave this up to what's going to happen. A lot of times, what we also see is that what you wanted to create, what you wanted to do, doesn't happen, and often the opposite happens, or something bad happens, but later on it gets rectified. Because in order to bring the situation to a better level, it has to evolve, and it often evolves into what you would have liked to happen earlier. But people weren't ready for that. So sometimes you also have to understand that even though something might be right, if people aren't ready for it, then it's not really right. It may be right absolutely, but relatively it's not right. For example, I read this example. I don't know if you can relate to it, but I can relate to it. They tried to industrialize farming in third world countries, so they brought all these machines and power tools, and people couldn't relate to them, so they didn't use them. And so they realized that it was so far out of their normal experience, and it was so far out of their comfort zone, that even though the tools would have got the job done better and quicker, they didn't use them. So they thought what to do, and they said, well, if we could have a tool that's a little better, they would probably use that because it's very similar. So for example, you have a normal tool and you have a hydraulic tool, and hydraulic tools, you can, with less effort, you can have more force with less effort. So they gave them a tool where normally you go like this, not much happens. With a hydraulic you go like that and much more happens. So because it was a hand tool, they could relate to it. Isn't that interesting? So you want a person who's doing A to do D, maybe they can do B, but not D. And so when you understand this, it's easier to be accepting. And I think it's also important to understand that if somebody is not capable, or somebody is not able to do the things that you would like them to do, it's not, most of the time, it's not the person's fault, it's just their nature. And so when you deal with different people and you have certain things to accomplish and you're engaging different people, it's good to understand their nature, because by understanding their nature, you can realize that some people are just not going to accomplish what you want, or they won't accomplish it to the level you want because they're not capable. And there's nothing wrong with them, it's just they're not capable. Like someone, let's say someone is an amazingly talented artist, and you ask them to do some like heavy work, and they can't really assist you well. They're not that strong, they're not that inclined, and you could get frustrated with them for being incompetent. Whereas as an artist, they're super competent. So sometimes we run into this situation where we're working together with people who are not competent in the areas we need them to be competent in, or they're competent in some but not all, and we get impatient and frustrated. That ever happened to you? When actually it's just not, the person is not geared or wired, so to speak, to excel at certain things. And when you understand that, you don't become impatient. So he's the wrong person, but if we have no one else to do it, then he'll do it, but we're not going to expect what we would expect from an expert. We're just going to get what he can do. And of course, people can get better, but that's part of acceptance. And this is the way how he does it. If you're a person that does everything really quickly, and you ever get around someone who's very meticulous, and just be dot the I, then we cross the T, put a dot there, and we'll fold it up. Let's get a nice envelope. Let's put the envelope over here, next to the other envelope with a little note on top. So this is for the mail. We have to be there before 4:30. Very organized. Then that would tend to be upsetting for a person who's like, just get it done, just pull it. Doesn't matter how the envelope looks. Just do it. We got a lot to do. Moving, pulling, accomplishing. So some people are in the accomplish mode and some aren't. So when you're working with a person who's a little slower, then you're not going to get done all the things and at the same rate as the fast person. But maybe that slow person is very competent. It's like as an artist, very detailed, can sit there patiently, or as a writer who can sit for hours contemplating how to say something, contemplating what to say. So it's really helpful in learning how to deal with people and be accepting. This is it's just because a person does not do something well, it doesn't mean they don't do something else well. It's just sometimes they're put in a position where they don't do something well, and people get frustrated, but they may be very talented in other areas, right? So, Guru Nishta says also, when we are in such a cycle of thinking and thinking, just sitting, doing kirtan even alone might help. Yeah, kirtan always helps. But I would say, if you're going to do kirtan, you're really going to do it well. You want to detach. Like whatever else is going on, you detach. Because you could hold kirtan back. You may not do it well. It's possible, right? And then if you don't do it well, you may remain focused on what's bothering you. But if you go to a very ecstatic kirtan, yes. And if you're by yourself, yes, maybe, and you just have to try harder. That's for sure. I leave it alone because I don't want to offend anybody, and Lord Jagannath take care of it. Yeah, that's the best thing. Because Marina doesn't take it so seriously, so she can. Well, she's from Brazil. Maybe that also might be a cultural thing. That maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But there's a lot of people in America take things very seriously, and a lot of people, what they need to be comfortable, to be peaceful, they need things to be a certain way, and for those kinds of people, it's hard to be around people who aren't the way they need people to be, because it's upsetting. This guy talks when he eats, and I have to look at his dirty mouth. I can't take it. I don't want to deal with him. It's driving me crazy. Somebody else, it just, doesn't even notice that. It's not a problem. Right? So we have to understand that about ourselves in terms of cooperation, because sometimes it's just that people are not up to our standards, but there are standards, and our standards are not always universal. And even if our standards are Krishna conscious, so-called universal, they are correct, and someone is not up to that standard, then it's not. I think what's important to understand is that the nature of devotee, his heart is soft. And so when someone doesn't come up to a standard, say, it's got to be like this is the standard, it means the heart is not soft. And so, of course, sometimes we have to maintain our standards, not sometimes. We have to maintain our standards, but it's not just black and white. He's either in or out. And we have to be careful if, in trying to maintain our standards, it's not being motivated, but just being extremely hard with people, because we're trying to cultivate a soft heart. So that's important to understand. It's very important to understand. That look at your dealings with other devotees and ask yourself, if there's friction there, am I acting this way because I have a hard heart? Is that why I'm doing it? I may think I have so many reasons why I'm doing it, and so many excuses, why the situation is not correct, it's not right, and therefore I'm upset. But I think a lot of times it's because our heart is hard, and we're very judgmental. And so if somebody doesn't live up to standards which are important to us, we can become very intolerant. Also, we know, I think most of you know, that if a person doesn't live up to standards that are important to us, we become intolerant, especially if we ourselves don't live up to those standards. Did you know that? So we become upset. So, if you're falling short of your standard, you want to be around people who follow that standard, because it's encouraging, right? But if you're not following the standard and someone else is not following the standard, and you really want to follow the standard, it can be very disturbing to you. Because really what you want is to be around people who follow, not undermine, not struggle with the same thing you're struggling. That reminds you of your struggle in some perverted way. You become critical because you're actually like disgusted with yourself in some way. You see yourself in them, and it's just a big mess. So it's good to understand. Because if you understand these things, it's easier to get along with people. It's easier to be tolerant. And what I was beginning, when we were beginning this class, I was saying that if we're not like this, we get very discouraged. So really what we're doing is discouraging ourselves, if you actually think about it, isn't it? We're looking at things in a certain way, and then we get discouraged. Well, 5 people are looking at the same thing. All 5 people are not discouraged. So ultimately we're always the ones discouraging ourselves. Like in the forgiveness workshop, we realize when you come to a higher level, there's nobody to forgive. There's only somebody who's just helping you become more tolerant, or more forgiving, or more something. And you don't need to forgive somebody who's helping you. It doesn't make sense. So, in that higher sense, nobody's disturbing you. It's just only people are helping you become more tolerant. That's the way you can see it, right? So, Devavadi says, cooperation requires loving, caring, and to follow through until the end. Then trust and love prevail. Very, very important for us to be like this. And very difficult, but very necessary. Foundationally necessary. Because this will energize our bhakti. Good relationships will energize our bhakti. Bad relationships will undermine it. Bad relationships can even disenfranchise us from association with devotees. We may come to a point where we don't like devotees. We don't want to be around them. Oh, let's go to sleep. I was up until 12:30 last night. So, because 12:30, I flew in from Seattle, so 12:30 my time was 9:30 Seattle time. That's why I was up late. And I didn't get up till 6, which meant I got up at 3 o'clock Seattle time. That's why I'm tired. I've been up since 3 in the morning. How do you like that? Okay. I have a good excuse for being tired. Alright? Okay. Alright. And we have a thought from Guru Nishta. Yeah, do kirtan for stress. Stress relief. In 3 words. Hare Krishna and Rama. Okay. When you start reading a lot and going to lectures a lot, you learn that the worst thing is to have somebody offended by you. So I just wait. That's good, yeah. Graciousness is not saying what could be said, even if it's true. Isn't that nice? Okay, you could say something, but you don't. Isn't that nice? I think another thing that happens when you make advancement is that you're aware that something's wrong, but it doesn't really infiltrate your consciousness. Just like as you advance in spiritual life, I know what I'll do. I'm going to sit up, because sitting up could wake me up, right? Sit up straight like a yogi. How's this? Hare Krishna. One of the symptoms of spiritual advancement is that although you have material desires, they don't have much control over you. It's like a pain that's going away. And now it's no longer a severe pain, it's just an inconvenience. Like a lot of you know, I have a problem with my arm, and it's not that painful. No, it's not that bad. Well, sometimes it is, but generally, even when I scream, I'm overreacting. I just get to a position and then like a nerve hit something. But I can use it. It's just an inconvenience. I sleep at night and, oh, it's an inconvenience, but it was much when it first happened, it was much worse. So it was more than an inconvenience. So as you advance in devotional service, things which were previously disturbing are now just inconveniences. They're just botherations, but they're not things that deviate you. They're not really that troublesome. So in the same way, situations, and when I say situation, I mean people creating situations which are disturbing. When you're more Krishna conscious, or when you're trying to be more Krishna conscious, then like Marina's saying, it's you don't focus on it. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't focus on it. It's like, okay, but it's not attractive. It's not attractive, and it's not productive. That's another thing. So why am I not focusing on this? This is a problem. You're not focused on it because you can't really do anything about it, and it's not productive for you to focus on it. Think about it. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? It's like why would you invest money in something that's not going to give you a return? Why would you invest money where you knew for sure you're going to lose money? So don't invest your consciousness, your mental energy in something that's going to drain it. So when you're aware of this, and there's a tendency to invest mental energy in something negative, you don't do it. You just don't. It's not attractive to you. It doesn't make sense to you. Just like if you eat a healthy diet, then you're not attracted to foods that aren't healthy. If you don't eat a healthy diet, then you may be very attracted to foods that aren't healthy. I'll keep talking, Venarati. We only have 14 minutes left. I think I'll survive. Maybe I'll wake up. I'll say something so profound it'll even wake me up. The lights will go off in my mind, and I'll go, wow, what a thought. So, as you advance in Krishna consciousness, it's like I was saying, you might change your diet. You realize that certain things are healthy. You didn't know previously that certain foods were not healthy. You just liked them because they tasted good. But now you know it's not healthy. And so when people bring them to you, even though you used to like them, now you say, no, thanks, I won't take it. So it's not that it doesn't have some attraction, but it doesn't have enough attraction to make you want to eat it. Because now you're feeling better because you're eating a better diet. So similarly, it's not that you won't notice a fault, and it's not that you may not even be attracted to fault finding, but it's not really part of your diet anymore. So you don't really notice it, or it doesn't really bother you. It's not something because you only really focus on what is important for you, and if it's not important for you, you won't focus on it. So it's an interesting thought, isn't it, to think, I only focus on what's important, I only focus on what I'm attracted to. So if I'm focused on negatives, particularly in people, that means it's attractive to me. So something I'm getting from that, and therefore it's pulling my focus, right? Does that make sense? Makes sense to me. Does it make sense to you? I have somewhat of an interest in it. That's why I'm focusing on it. You go shopping, right? So if you're a child, you're very interested in toys. If you're an adult, you're not. So if you're an adult, you don't focus on the toys. And if you're a man, you'll focus on different things than a woman focuses on. And if, what was I doing? Oh, like today, my daughter wanted me to buy some cosmetics, some eyeliner, to bring to India. So I'm walking in the cosmetics section, I'm walking through, and she told me what she wanted. And I'm thinking, this is like a foreign country to me. I've never dealt with this. So how many times have I walked through a CVS or a Walgreens or some kind of drugstore, or what you call a chemist in India or in England? How many times have I walked through? A lot. How many times have you walked through? A lot. And ask any men, did you notice the makeup section? Did you notice they have these different kinds of eyeliners and different colors, and they have these different kinds of makeup and different shades, and they have this brand and that brand and this, and they'll all say no. But they've all walked by it, right? This is not of interest to them, so it doesn't engage their consciousness, right? And there may be things in the store that are attractive to men, and the women have walked by it, and they're not attracted. They don't, you say, did you see that? They say, see what? I didn't see anything. Men, when you walk by cosmetic, this one cosmetic area in this store, it was a Walgreens, it went on, I would say, for 20 or 30 or 40 feet of just cosmetics. That's a lot. That's a lot to not notice. Isn't it? Isn't it a lot to not notice? But so we can be that way with the faults of people if we're in the right consciousness. Right? Isn't it? It's just if you're advancing in Krishna consciousness, you're more interested in hearing and chanting about Krishna, and you're more interested in getting along and associating well with devotees. You know. Now, I know there are devotees who are very interested in pointing out all the problems in our movement, because there are problems. Obviously, we're humans and we're not perfect. So when you put us to the task, we create problems. But there's got to be some balance there, so it doesn't become upsetting, it doesn't upset and disturb our bhakti. But we can go on happily and be encouraged. We don't want to be so focused. There's a way to focus on the negative without being discouraged. And one of the ways, of course, is do something to improve. Or another way is to be an example of the behavior that you don't like. So you're doing something proactive. It upsets you that people act in a certain way, so you make sure you don't act in that way, and you make sure you act in the opposite way. So now you're doing something positive about it, which is really great, and which is what Prabhupada said we should do. Okay, let's go to see what you have to say. Marina says this class is very important. Maybe we should transcribe it, write an article. Maybe what he says, yes. I'm half asleep. I'm not going to remember anything I said tomorrow morning. That's right now. I'm channeling. I feel so many times when I'm teaching, that, because like now, the last few weeks I've just been giving classes spontaneously, so I actually have not even thought for more than a few seconds what I would talk about. Of course, over time I could say I think about these things. But sometimes I feel like I'm going to have to listen to the recording of this lecture to remember what I said. That's amazing. Krishna's amazing. Herbal kajal eyeliner in the pharmacy across from the Chowpatty temple. Yeah, I don't know why she didn't want to get that. We can make kajal at home. Wow. Why don't you make some and I'll bring it to Braja. We'll pick it up at your house. That would be good. Because kajal is good for your eyes. Right? I did acupuncture, but it didn't work so well. Okay. Alright, so is it possible to have class tomorrow? I'm trying to get ready for India. Oh my God. Class tomorrow, I don't know. That's a big request. Well, why don't we say this? Go online and see if I'm online tomorrow. And if I am, we have class. And if I'm not, we don't. And wait till 8:05. Because I don't know what I'll be doing. Because I'm meeting with people and I have to work around their schedule. And I have to pack and this and that and go through stuff and shop and have all kinds of fun. I actually gave myself 3 days instead of 2. So I really have 2 days worth of work. A little more than 2. Give myself 3 full days. So, anyway. Sometimes I feel like I should give class every night. But I don't always know where I'll be and what I'll be doing. And, yeah. So why don't you ask some questions or make some comments? Maybe the question will wake me up. Be such an interesting question, it'll just wake up. You have no questions. Anyway, I'll wait for you to see if you have a question, but underlining what I'm talking about here is really looking at the choices we have in responding to the situations and the choices we have on focus. So, you want to do a little exercise on focus, everyone? You'll enjoy this. I'd like you to look around your room and notice everything that's brown in it, okay? Just notice things that are brown in your room. Okay? Now close your eyes, like me, and think of everything that's green in your room. Ha ha ha, you couldn't, right? Why couldn't you? Because you were focused on the brown, so you didn't notice the green, right? Mahatma's very tricky, isn't he? He caught me. You only notice what you focus on. I think you kind of know that, don't you? That you only, I don't focus on cosmetics. I don't notice them in the street. Focus on what you notice. You notice what you focus. Yeah, you notice what you focus. There's no brown in her room. Oh my God, you're in the wrong room. Go spill some chocolate on the floor. Then they'll be brown. So, you're looking at somebody, what do you notice? You're looking at a situation, what do you notice? You notice what you notice, and you don't notice what you don't notice. And whatever you notice, whatever you focus on, that affects you. And some people are focused on a lot of negative things, isn't it? Ew, Vainarati, you see with your ears, don't worry. That's the real scene. So, your consciousness goes to what you focus on. The sooner in life we realize that there's going to be a lot of people who don't think like us, and you can't understand why they don't think like you. What is wrong with them? I don't understand why they think this way. This is so bad. They're so this, they're so that, they're so narrow, they're so conservative, they're so liberal, they're so right-wing, they're so left-wing, they're so harsh, or this guy's so soft. They just blow him and he falls over. Right? But what you realize, or hopefully realize sooner or later, that Krishna created people differently. So everybody's not going to be like you, everybody's not going to be like your hero. They're going to be the way they are. And the more you accept that without focusing on, oh, why do they have to be like this, then you're okay. Just like in Mayapur, there are Russians, right? The Russians are different than Americans. It's just the way they are. So you can't make a Russian an American. Why don't you become like an American? What's wrong with you? You're so, like, you're too serious. You're too fanatical, Russian, fanatical. What's wrong with you? Just mellow out. Or Indians. Indians are much different than Americans. They do things differently. It's just so if you're thinking in your mind, why don't you do things like Americans? Well, I'll tell you the answer. Why? Because they're not Americans. In case you didn't know the answer. Now you know the answer. It'll solve all your frustrations with Indian people. Why don't you do things like America? Do things differently. What does that mean when you say, why don't you do things differently? It means, why don't you do things differently like people in my country? Hello, they're not from your country. Now you know the answer. Mellow out. It's okay. They do things differently. Right? For us as Americans, some Indians do things really differently. Some a little bit differently. Some not that much different. And some they do very differently. So different that sometimes we couldn't believe if we didn't go to India and see it ourselves that people would do things that way. It's actually beyond, some people do things which are beyond our imagination. Not only Indians, I'm sure in many countries. And then what do we think? We say, that's bizarre. What does bizarre mean? Bizarre means uncommon for you, but for them and the people in their village, it's not bizarre at all. It's normal. You're bizarre. You know, those of you who have been to India, you know if you have a white body, or you look like you're not Indian and you're dressed, particularly in the dhoti or kurta or sari, Indian people might stare at you like this for a long time. And then they'll look at you like this. I don't know, Carolina or Alejandro or Timothy, you have that experience. Well, Alejandro, you probably don't because you look Indian. Bengali. Alejandro looks Bengali. But that's just what they do. So, what's wrong with you? And Americans, they can't stand it when people stare at them. It drives them crazy. And all these Indians in the villages, they'll look at you and you get a whole group and they'll stare at you. It's true. So I just go like this, smile, and then they break out of it, and then they smile and they wave back. So, for us as Americans, that's weird. But when you accept that people are not really weird, people are just what they are. They're like pieces of clay. They get molded by their upbringing and culture, and then they are what they are. Good morning, Palak. Palak's up early in the morning. I probably hasn't gotten to bed yet. More like it. It must be like 1 in the morning for you, right? 5, 4, 2 in the morning, right? 6. You must be 6 hours ahead of us. It must be 2 in the morning. And so when you realize that 4 a.m. Wow, that's not bad at all. When you realize that people are what they are because of what they are. What a profound statement. Wow, write that down. People are what they are because of what they are. That mantra will solve all your problems. People are what they are because of what they are. Stamp that on your forehead. Carry a mirror around and look at it. You'll have no problems. You'll get along with everybody, right? Yeah, like Devavadi says, I love the hearts of the Mayapur Vasis. Some people, they don't like the people in Mayapur because they're too village Indian. You go to Mayapur, it's all right. The whole family comes, they just camp out on the steps of a store. They put their blankets down in the middle of the afternoon, they're just sleeping, and they eat, and they go pass urine on the side of the road. They're really cash, just like those Indian village people there at home, wherever they put their body down on the ground, they make it their home. Right? You see this, not so much now, but we used to see this in the airports, because now they don't let everyone go to the airport. But in the old days in India, old for me anyway, you'd see whole families in the airport. They just like make themselves right at home, put their blankets out, take rest, have a picnic. So 5, 6, 8 of them resting on the floor, no problem. So you think that's weird, right? But it's just the way they are. And if we can accept people the way they are, I may not want to make them my best friend, I may not want to live that way, but just understand that's the way they are, and it's okay. And because they're frustrated. Otherwise, as Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, nobody can hurt you unless you hurt yourself. So, we do a lot, when we get upset by these things, we do a lot to hurt ourselves. And, if we become intolerant, intolerance is a symptom of pride. So it's good to be aware of that. Yeah, intolerance is a symptom of pride. So we can become very intolerant of things which are quote-unquote bizarre for us. Right? Things we're not used to. Anyway, when I'm in Mayapur, I like to do what Devavati does and appreciate the people. Even though they're very simple. But they're there in the temple. They're coming to see the deity. They're up early in the morning. They're sleeping in these simple. So we have these very simple bamboo little guest houses and simple beds, and they're coming to see Radha Madhava. So that's wonderful. Train stations, yeah. People stare at you at the train stations. If you want to increase your level, if you want to do some tapasya, increase your level of tolerance, take a train in India at 6 o'clock in the evening. I don't think there's much. Well, probably you could do something to increase your tolerance a little more, and take a bus at 6 o'clock in the evening in August in Calcutta. That could be the height of tapasya. Of course, I'm only joking, because we know the real tapasya for us is to spread Krishna consciousness, so we don't just do tapasya for tapasya's sake, but still you understand the principle that to live in this world requires tolerance. And actually think about it. Think about, people don't have much tolerance today, and one of the reasons they don't have much tolerance is because we've made things so comfortable and convenient that it's hard to tolerate inconvenience, isn't it? Isn't it? Get so used to comfort. We're more comfortable than people were 100 years ago, or especially way more comfortable than they were a few hundred years ago. So then we can become easily intolerant because we're not used to any discomfort. So, and how is tolerance connected to pride? Because we think we're so important, we shouldn't have to be uncomfortable. We shouldn't have to tolerate any inconvenience, because actually, I am really the most important person in the universe, in case you didn't know. Just want to reinforce that in case you didn't know, maybe you just forgot. But, you're like brushing up against me on the train, and I don't like that. Can you move over? And that doesn't work in India. There's no moving over. There's 6 people sitting where there's supposed to be 2 people sitting. So, if you're going to deal with that, you have to be a little bit free of pride. Because if there's pride, you become intolerant. How dare you brush up against me? Trains in India are so crowded at rush hour. You don't have to hold yourself, because you're surrounded by people, so you don't even have to try to stand upright. It's actually quite relaxing, although this sounds funny. But it's actually quite relaxing if you think about it, because you can just lean, because there's so many people. Actually, you can't really lean, but there's so many people, they hold you up, so you don't have even, exert any energy. It's almost like sleeping standing up. You really don't have to exert any energy standing up, isn't it? Any of you who've been on a train, isn't that true? So maybe a 6 o'clock train in going from leaving downtown Mumbai, it's not really austere, because if you stand up, you actually probably just sleep and you just, lay against everybody. Wow. Now you're all going to try that, right? Get a good nap on the sardine special, right? I'm going to be in Mumbai. Maybe I'll try it and report to you how it went. But I remember that because I used to go to downtown Mumbai all the time on those trains that I remember at a certain point. I said, it's not so bad. I mean, well, it is. Somebody may sometimes like that also, yeah. Antonio, but there's one difference. In India, they don't use deodorant. So brushed up against everybody, it is a bit austere. Unless you bring a nose pin and clip it to your nose. Yeah, take a taxi, an SUV. Yeah. So how many times have Prabhupada said, you want to live in this world, you have to be tolerant, right? Isn't it? You have to be tolerant. There's so much to tolerate. And then when you accept, okay, this is what the world's like, you become more tolerant, because it's like I'm in Mayapur, I was doing something, I'm I'm doing something with my cell phone, right? So I'm sitting, waiting, sitting on a bench that looks like it was made in 1920. Probably made like 2 weeks ago, but it wasn't made well, it wasn't painted well, so it looks like it was made 80 years ago or 90 years ago. The place probably hasn't been cleaned in 6 to 8 weeks, and it's off a dusty road. There's 1 or 2 guys in there smoking. The guy I'm waiting for is dealing with someone else and taking forever, right? So there's a lot of reason to be. There's a lot of things that could just make one very upset, right? So life is a challenge. So what are you going to focus on? How upset you are, how slow this guy is. Why does this guy have to smoke? Why don't they clean this place? Why is this bench ready to fall over? Isn't it funny how sometimes you're in a situation and you're just focusing on everything that's bad about it? What a good way to torture yourself. Wow. Expert way to torture yourself. Focus on what you don't like about something and really get into it. And just really focus on it. And talk about it to everybody. Tell them how bad it is. Really, 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 really just stir it up till you feel like totally discouraged, till you feel totally miserable. Just stir it up, stir it up. What a perversion. What a perverted form of pleasure. You cause yourself misery by focusing on something that's unpleasant and discouraging. And you call that happiness. That's happiness in the mode of ignorance. Isn't it interesting, isn't it? Happiness in the mode of ignorance. Yes? Comprende. Oh, that's French. Comprendo. Comprende. Comprendez-vous. Right? Comprendre. I give up. You understand. You comprehend, right? Focus. Okay, so now we went over time. So I think it's time to sign off, isn't it? The Mahatma Comedy Hour is now over officially. And I hope you had a good laugh. And I hope you laughed your way into transcendence and enlightenment. Está claro. Is it claro? Caro? Caro, well, Caro says it's also claro. Maybe Caro, we should change your name to Claro. Claro, Caro. Yeah, it's very clear. As you advance, hopefully you change your focus, but you can change it now. Don't wait till you're advanced to change it. Change it now. Yeah, we have to post this on, have to get it on YouTube so we can listen to it again. Okay, so thank you all, and we will see you. If things work out, we can see you tomorrow. If they don't work out, we won't. And Hare Krishna to all of you. All glories to Prabhupada Ki Jai.